So, Austin, so glad to have you back. We're talking today a new feature that is hitting the festival circuit. A very interesting title, Sanguine Teeth on a Driftless Road. So, welcome once again.
Thank you for having me back, Mark.
Very,
Appreciate it.
very, very happy to have you back. Always, supporting Wisconsin filmmakers represent. So, uh, and here, uh, yeah, we'll start off as always. You want to give our fine listeners a little summary of what Sanguine Teeth on a Driftless Road is about.
It's about four vampires that go on a road trip to a cabin in the woods, and you know, shit
Shen-
goes off the rails. So,
Shenanigans ensue. Shenanigans ensue.
right, yeah.
So, what was it? When we talked before, you had shot. It was almost a feature, an hour long. But what made you want to do a full length feature, and especially this story? What was it that made you want to do this?
Well, I mean, I wanted to shoot a feature, right?
Right,
The last one was technically a feature at an hour and 11 minutes, but
right,
um, I don't know. I wanted to swing for the fences a little harder, and try and get some interesting talent involved in it. And when I was kind of like any filmmaker, I or most, I'm assuming, have a bunch of ideas
sure,
that would be fun. Oh, this would be make a cool idea. Maybe start developing them and such. But um, at the end of the day, if you're really wanting to get something made, you need to have the right amount of ingredients
mhm,
to get it there. And so location became a big factor. And I had the uh opportunity, somebody would let me use their full cabin and their land and
sure,
everything to shoot on, right? So that, and I I don't want to say too much about it because
sure.
I sort of like, took an idea and sort of flipped it around and you know whatever. So it's you know
It
ah,
evolved.
yeah. So it, I was thinking about a few of my friends who were actors and a few of my friends that are want to be actors or
Sure,
have done stuff like you know music stuff and blah blah blah, and gave them some smaller parts and stuff too. But um, the idea just sort of congealed where I was like, this would be funny if we like took this and like twisted this, and
mhm,
we have this location, and then I started reaching out to some other places to see if the possibility, we got a an RV donated to the movie so that we could shoot, half, well, not half the movie, but like yeah, a quarter of the movie is, them traveling across the state and, stopping for various reasons. And then,
yeah,
they get to the cabin. So some of those things helped, make it possible. And that was, it's funny because I had been working on this other idea for a movie. And I don't know if I'll ever actually do it or not now because we had Doug Montoya and I had shuffled some ideas around um, a few times about this movie called The Director's Cut.
oh,
And yeah, so this was like 2 years ago or a little longer than that maybe. And I had this whole plot developed and story arc to it or whatever. And then I saw like last year, I think I saw somebody was coming out with a movie called The Director's Cut, and I was like, ah, I said it to Doug. I was like, they beat us. So, and yeah, it's funny because like you toss around a bunch of different ideas, but this one
sure.
was just kind of like, well, what do I have? What can I build around,
Sure.
and it seemed like fun to do a vampire movie. So
A road trip vampire movie, uh, which I,
yeah,
which I did find interesting. I had some questions when the movie first watched because I got a chance to watch it. I when the movie first opened, I'm like, they're vampires. Okay,
wait, Sanguine Teeth?
yes, because
Y-
I'm
y-
I'm on the
oh,
Sada
okay,
City
okay,
Fright
okay, okay.
Fest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
So,
gotcha. Okay,
yep,
okay,
yep. Nope, nope.
cool.
I did it legally. It was all through. No,
Oh,
no.
it's just like, where did you watch it?
No, no, no. It was
Okay.
because it was submitted for our fest, Sada City Fright Fest, so it's being considered. So I wanted to watch it, so I was a little familiar with it when we were talking about it, and I did have
Yeah.
some questions with your vampires, but you answer them, and I was happy that you answered them because I'm like, okay, it's daylight.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
what but then but you set it all up, which I appreciate quite a bit. And what went into your for picking your vampires for the road trip, because they all seem to get along very well. I really liked this group of characters that we follow through. What was it about the casting with these folks that made you want to put them together and make ensure that it was going to work? Because I think it works very well that they're four friends. But what went into picking those four?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of story there behind it because they weren't the original intended cast.
Hmm.
Not all of them. That isn't true. Matt Kenner was originally so I wrote the script around the people that I had cast or was hoping to cast.
Hmm.
Um, Originally, Ty Barnett was gonna play. He's a comedian in LA. He was gonna play Kano, but he had coming up to it, probably like a couple of months before we were going to shoot. He had some really serious health
Mm,
issues that came up, and we just kind of kept in touch over it through doctor visits,
sure,
and
sure.
and it just wouldn't it wasn't going to work because of there's a fight scene, and
Hmm.
like it was basically like, look, man, like this is your choice. I'm not going to be upset with you. I fully understand like this situation. So he ended up like, it's a serious situation, like, so um he had to bow out. And so then I ended up casting Monty for the part. I didn't really know him that
Hmm.
well, but he had I think I'm trying to remember now. Matt had met him and we did a short film together, and he fit the part, so it just worked. And he had a fun personality. The person who I originally wrote, uh Ricky Pete's character, for the bigger character, that was originally written for Lavelle Crawford. He's so one of my best. Well, so Matt's a really good friend of mine, and the vampire that, or the actor that plays Alamo the vampire, he's one of my best friends. We've been friends for like 30 years, and his cousin is Lavelle Crawford. So, and they're
Yeah,
friends, right? Like they're cousins,
sure.
and like we I met him and hung out and stuff, and I approached him, and I wasn't sure if he would actually go for the script because it's a little bit raunchier than I think
Hmm.
he probably um maybe like. But anyway, he didn't go for it. So then I would set out on a mission to. I didn't I didn't really put out a casting notice for it. I
Sure.
just started searching databases
Hmm.
for people who fit. I thought that fit, and then I would go and watch their reels or watch their stand up, or like just find. I found about five people that I was like, okay, these guys, and then I reached out to maybe four of them. After I
Hmm.
narrowed them down and saw I like what this guy's doing, and I like this guy's personality, and blah blah blah. And then ultimately I had two people audition for it, and Charlie Mack got the part. He was very charismatic.
He
So
is. He is. I
yeah,
liked Ricky Pete and Matthew Kenner as Damascus was a
yeah,
great kind of a tent pole for the other characters as well. I really like the Damascus character. What went into writing him? Did you kind of pull from your favorite vampire stories or what, because he's an interesting personality.
right, yeah. Yeah, I wanted him to be sort of like the old school, um, a little more serious, like it's kind of, but like I don't want to give too much away, but obviously,
Sure.
like in his own time, he's not quite as like I was trying to do this, like take a look at vampires in the sense of like if you remove the like sensuality and the like the mystery that a lot
Hmm.
of vampire movies have and like the seductiveness and you just like look at it like what it really is, like you're not, like this vampire taking advantage of this woman and like like what I just like wanted to bring it into this current just like make it feel like what if vampires really were just like dudes hanging out and like but they're also like in some ways pretty terrible because of the shit that they're doing, right? Like so that they're not just I kind of I feel like they're not just like one-dimensional characters. Like they
Oh
have
no.
flaws and you
Hmm.
like them sometimes and sometimes you're like, man, that dude is a fucking dick, right? Like so um yeah.
These are kind of like grounded vampires in a way, to where it's not as nearly as flashy or flamboyant as we've seen vampires in the past. And I kind of like that. I like that these were kind of almost like regular Joe vampires of sorts.
Right.
They don't over show, they aren't too extravagant. They're just kind of living their life. And I like some of the conversations they had in here as well, like where they're just having normal, like talking like average people, though they're talking about eating people and drinking blood and that, but they're just talking about it casually, like, like everyday folks, like, yeah, I like coffee, but I like this coffee
Yeah.
better than that one.
Yeah.
Um,
And so yeah, like I changed the rules, right? Like
sure.
obviously I made my own rules for vampires and like, you know, I allow yeah, people haven't seen the movie, but I allow them to eat. Is just they process things slower.
Mhm.
And I didn't necessarily get around to like discussing all of the minutia there.
Mhm.
As far as like, there are things that some people might be like, well, I don't fully get that, but like those things can or will be explained probably possibly in a second one at some point. I would like to do another one, but I want to. I mean, you know, I put some money into this movie, but
Sure.
I would like to, have I would love to have like a couple 100,000 to do,
Hmm.
a movie just so there was a little more because it was super tough. Like it was a lot of pages, right? It's a long movie,
Right.
and I because of how I wrote it, how I set it up. And because I had to fly a number of actors in, and we had to shoot it all in a 6-day period for the part where like anything that has Visitor or Ricky Pete,
Hmm.
uh, that whole section there had to be shot in 6 days because once they leave, once they
Right.
fly back, because I only had so much money and I was
Yeah.
just stretched to the end of like
Sure.
being able to cover everything. And so I would like to do another one, but I would like to have a little bit more money so that it was because it I was rushed,
Hmm.
there were definitely things that I wish I could have done a little differently. And I definitely had, fun shot ideas or like some more artistic shot ideas that I was planning to do, but because we're like running to get some of the stuff done, it was like, all right, we just have to shoot this in a way that's going to be,
Sure.
much quicker. Because otherwise, it's like we either tell the story or I can get this pretty shot and then it won't make any fucking sense.
You do have some pretty shots in here, though. I did like the shot through the cave system. I thought that was a really cool thing with Damascus early on in the movie. Not a spoiler, just there's a great shot there through caves, and I liked that quite a bit. I liked how that looked and everything. That looked really sharp.
Yeah,
Eh,
that was cool.
how challenging was it to film in those caves? Because that's the Niagara caves, correct?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I had a little technical difficulty at the beginning. We were racing again to get these shot. We had a tight schedule because we had to shoot that, and then we had a certain amount of time to get to the next location, and we
Sure.
only had 2 hours there. So
Oh,
it was kind of like racing, racing from one point to the other, and it was a really like kind of a stupid day, but it was it was just what it had to be because we
right.
still had the actors we needed, and we needed to be in like the three different cities in the same day. So so we drove from DeSoto in the morning, DeSoto, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
which is where we shot, at the cabin, and then we drove to uh the Niagara Caves in Minnesota, and then we had to shoot at the Antique Mall in
Mm.
Harmony, Minnesota, and then we had to drive back to Madison to shoot another scene at the end of the day because
Right.
it needed to be a sunset scene.
Sure.
And yeah, so it was,
That's a lot of driving. That's a lot of
oh,
driving.
dude, yeah, it's kind of a miracle that that movie got made, to be honest with you.
Sounds
Uh,
like you hit a lot of challenges, but
yeah.
but it works. I mean you've got multiple locations, which I was impressed with, including the gas station. You get a gas station scene in
Which
here.
one? There's three.
There's three. There's three. None of them quick trips, but that's okay.
Yeah, Quick Trips won't let you film in there.
Oh, really? They won't?
Uh, I think I tried one Quick Trip, and I'm trying to remember. I, I know they had to talk to corporate or something, and I can't remember what the response was, but I do remember that we didn't film there. I think they just said that they wouldn't allow it or something
Sure,
like that. I
sure.
don't remember. Maybe if I'd approached them with a lot of money, they would have changed their tune. But like I was just for a couple $100, can we shoot in your gas
Yeah, yeah,
station?
yeah. Well, yeah,
So
you open with the gas station scene, which was actually you had a lot of moments in here that were reminiscent of some Tarantino esque type dialogue and scenes in here, with especially with our two crooks in the beginning. I kind of liked that.
so that's a true story.
Really,
Um, I, I filmed it because the black guy in that scene and I have been friends since we were 12 years old, and we his the story is about his dad.
oh, okay,
So his dad really did this, and I was like, would it be fucked up and kind of funny if we had you play your dad in the scene? And and he was like, dude, that's awesome. So we just, we did it. I mean, the dialogue is obviously like speculation.
oh
We have
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea what was really said in the situation, but
sure.
no, that really happened. So it was kind of fun.
That was a lot of fun to watch. And an interesting opening for your vampire film. I was like, okay, where are we going with this?
Yeah, it was just kind of the setup for, introducing Alamo's character and sort of
Yeah.
seeing, because he's the baby vampire, right? Like he doesn't know what the fuck. He's like this is only he's still trying to figure out things, and like he's teething. I don't really say that, in the movie,
No, but
but
it's implied. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Alamo was an interesting character. I like with the cowboy hat and that. Did he have input on that, or was that all from the script?
that was all from the script, and there was more to that,
Hmm.
but it didn't make it into the movie because
Sure.
he just decided, like his character just decided that, like, well, I'm a vampire now. I guess my life has changed. I've always wanted to be a cowboy. So he just decides to just like switch it up and dress like a cowboy and talk like a cowboy and just become a cowboy. So, he's like his whole life is going to be different now. So why not just change and turn it all over? But I don't really talk about that in this movie. I figure, maybe in the next one or something, I'll there'll be a little more backstory there on that character.
Yeah, and I what's interesting with the world that you build in this is I like how almost normalized vampirism is in a lot of circles. You know, the way they talk about visiting certain individuals in a profession. I'm like, oh, they've got their own like doctors. They've got their own. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the way you establish this. I did enjoy that quite a bit because that's a little bit different. To like again, it felt like you were really trying to normalize vampires
Right.
with this
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like it was like, like if you were like in a real situation and like that dude's a vampire, like, right, like, man, I'm fucking tired of being in this castle. Like, I want to go get some shit. Right.
I want I want to go mess some shit up. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that all of that was handled well, and you get makeup effects and blood effects in here too. You don't get too gory because limited budget, but you still have
Oh, I
some
had a lot
fun
of
here.
blood, but
You still have a lot of fun in here. Not as much as some people might suspect from a vampire film, but there's still blood in here. But how'd you bring the makeup effects together in that? Because some of those looked really good.
uh, well, first of all, it was sort of an intentional choice to like be really limited on the blood. I've
Hmm.
got a lot of blood. I've got gallons of blood, right? Like I did
We
have
we'd like to preface that by saying fake blood. He has gallons of fake blood, not real blood.
oh no, I got this from
We're from Wisconsin, but not all of us are have serial killing tendencies. But okay, there you go.
been harvested blood for years now.
Yeah.
I sort of made like a conscious effort to like
Mhm.
be limited on the blood just because I don't know, it was kind of a there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of slasher movies coming out that are just
Sure.
gory, and I was
Hmm.
like, let's like try and do this a little different. I mean, obviously there has to be a little bit of blood or be like, hey, wait a minute.
You're well, yeah. I mean, it's a vampire movie, and people are getting bit. You're gonna have some
All
blood.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. There's no blood at all. Um, but uh but I make a joke in there about it at one point. But like some of the I don't know, prosthetic, like the
mhm.
head and stuff, um wasn't exactly what I was going for, but I was running out of time. I did a lot for this movie, right? Like I did,
Sure.
all the wardrobe and costumes and locations and all the pre-production and all that stuff. And I did the, prosthetic stuff, but originally it was we I had Doug over for the weekend and we did the cast of his head, and I I think I bought the wrong kind of silicone.
Oh,
I've never really made a
sure.
cast of someone's head before, and it didn't set up quite right.
Mm.
And I was down to like a week before or something, like 2 weeks before we were going to film. I don't remember exactly, but I wouldn't have had enough time to order another batch and then have him come back or what, like whatever it was. So I just decided to go a different route and like use like an already made mask for it and then fill it and paint it. So I
Sure.
painted it a little to look kind of like a little more like him and
I know it
put
was.
blood on.
It felt nice. I liked it because it felt old school. So it felt old school for sure, and
I
not in a
mean,
bad way. So
if it wasn't like already a comedy movie, then
if it
that
was
would
if
have
it
definitely
yeah.
been yeah, it would have definitely been one of those moments where you would have laughed because.
It does help for being a comedy movie. Do you find it then that there are some things that some people associate with a smaller budget film that are a little more forgiving because of it being a comedy film? Like you were mentioning, well, it doesn't quite look right, but then again, we've got a guy walking around with fake breasts for a good, what?
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that was so I didn't get a shot of him like picking those up out of the closet. So,
I
but
just no, I just loved how random. I'm like just watching this movie, and all of a sudden I'm watching it. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and I just rolled with it because like I'm okay, that's fine,
right, right,
And
right.
I will say they looked very realistic. So for a while I was like, did they just do pickup shots, and in between he decided to get some surgery or something? I don't know because Visitor seems like a guy that would do that.
Right. Yeah. No, I was intending to get a shot of him picking him up out of the
Mm.
closet, but I missed it, and I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's they're having a they're having a wild time. People can piece. What's going on.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of it was a lot of shots. It was a lot of stuff. And I probably still cut 15 minutes off of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, just
Is there
because there was a
with
lot of other stuff that I didn't think it didn't quite land or wasn't quite as
sure?
funny or whatever. So I just was like, let's just not.
I'm gonna admit that the runtime I did find a little intimidating first before I watched it. But
Yeah.
with that runtime, do you find that as a challenge then? Because it is hitting the festival circuit now. Does that sometimes possibly
I don't know
hinder
yet,
it?
but I don't know yet, but I'm sure that it
Mhm.
will. I'm pretty positive that it will.
Sure.
I had I had reached out to a sales agent that I know and just asked him like, hey, would you rep this? And he watched a little bit and he was like, yeah, man, this is awesome, but can you cut like 30 minutes off of it? Um, and I was like, no, I honestly I really can't. I
Hmm.
could maybe cut 10 minutes off of it, but like for a movie like this, it's not like a Hollywood budget movie where I just paid random people who
Right.
I don't know or have no tie to or they had no like real investment in this movie. Like a lot of the people that I made this movie with helped me in some way
Right.
get this movie made.
Hmm.
So like if I were to just cut them out of the movie, that would be a pretty shitty violation of trust on,
Right.
you know what I mean?
You don't want
Like,
to be that
hey,
guy. You don't want to be that guy. Yeah.
thanks for helping me get this movie made. I cut your scene though.
but
So,
but that would be so Hollywood. It'd be like the directors who end up going to see the premiere of the movie's completely different than what they originally cut because the studio went, no, we got another editor in here. We cut the film again while not telling
yeah,
you. So you'd be more Hollywood that
yeah,
way.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, I suppose when there's $50 million on the
Yeah.
line, right? And somebody's, I mean, not to say that like if I don't recoup any money from this movie, it's gonna hurt. Don't get me
Mm,
wrong, it's gonna
sure.
hurt, but at the same time, like I'm not gonna lose my house over it.
Right.
Whereas, when you put that kind of money into a movie and like they're arguing, right? You've got this money guy and this money guy and this, and
Yep.
they're arguing like, no, you're not going to do that because nobody's going to go watch a 2 hour and 14-minute fucking movie, right? Like, very rarely you don't have a star in that movie. And like, I didn't make it with the intention of ever like having it do a
Right.
theater
Right.
run, right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't anticipate that will happen. I do think it'll win some awards, maybe. I submitted it to a lot of bigger festivals this go
Hmm.
around. Um, so that'll, definitely lessen how many
Sure.
times it gets in,
But
but
But with indie films, I mean, yeah, you're making films because you want to make films. At least the impression I get from you and from other indie filmmakers, you want to tell a story more so
yeah.
than under the impression, hey, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna pull in that box office money like Sinners, um, you
Yeah.
know, uh, but at the
Right. Well, I
same,
mean,
it
they
and
had not
say, go ahead.
they had 90 million for that one. I
Well,
would
well, yeah. I mean, you could do like 90 films for that price, right?
yeah.
Uh, but what I'm saying is that you're going into it because you want to tell a story, and also with indie films making, it's about relationships, and you've established relationships. And as you said, you don't necessarily want to cut someone out because they devoted their time, resources, whatnot
Yeah.
to this film because they were getting a chance to be in front of the camera that they might not normally get a chance to. But by keeping them in the film and keeping that relationship down the road, do you need to make another film?
Right.
You've got folks who know they can count on you. They know, and they'll be more willing to help out. So you have more hands down the
Yeah.
road to help you out, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't, yeah, I just think it would be kind of cold-blooded, for I mean, there are a few scenes where it's like, okay, this doesn't really like super add to the story.
Hmm.
Like, do we need to see him walk through the cave for 2.5 minutes? Like, probably not, but it's a neat scene and it's fun to watch, right? Like, and it sounds cool. And so like
No, it's a
there's
great
this
shot. It's I liked it quite a
right.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, there's a few places like that where like, could we cut this maybe and take, a minute off here and a minute off there or something? Like, yeah, probably. I could whittle it down a little bit, right? But I mean, nothing is ultimately like you could probably cut a whole scene and be like, well, it's still a movie.
Come on, you can't cut the scene where they discuss about what's the best part to drink blood from. Come on, they just you
Right,
know
right. Right, and there's so many little parts that are just hilarious, but if you cut any of it, then it doesn't lead up to the joke, right? Or
right.
it doesn't, then you go like, well, where'd that dude get tits from? Right? Like right? Like that's just one little thing that
Yeah.
got cut, and then you're already automatically like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. So, like I feel like the way I wrote the movie is like you need all these little parts, or you're gonna be like, fuck are vampires walking around outside?
And we do have some adversaries in that. Costuming wise, did they bring their own? Because you have Amy Radloff in here, and I was like, okay, did they give her the costume or did she just pull that from her own wardrobe? It was
I did
pretty
wardrobe.
badass outfit. It was a pretty badass outfit.
Yeah, I did wardrobe for the whole movie,
Hmm.
so I gave everybody their outfits that they were
Hmm.
gonna wear for the movie, just because I wanted it to be a little more stylized, even though
Sure.
it's not like big capes and you
Yeah.
know
No, but it's still badass. I mean, she and her partners looked pretty badass. I was like, oh, okay, which is hilarious because They looked more, and I'm not spoiling it, I'm just going to say they looked more to their part that they played than our vampires did.
Right? But they're on vacation.
But they're on vacation, so they can affect your wardrobe too. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of entertaining bits. You've got a lot of different elements in here too, just not just straight camera shots. I mean, you work in some compositing in here. You've got a lot of different stuff you were trying out. Was it stuff that you had always wanted to try out in a film, or see if this worked for you? Because you've got a couple of different style differences in here. It's not just a straight talking shots of people, in a RV for so long. There's a lot of interesting things you've got going on in here.
Um, Trying to think what you're referencing.
The when they get to the cabin and visitor helps everybody imbibe in
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that was that was, I thought that would be a really fun thing to do for a bunch of vampires and like, you know, bring this guy along and stuff happens, and then I actually had the whole score for that section um planned out.
Hmm.
Like those are all songs that I made. So I turned like 10 minutes of the movie into a musical and just for the fun of the whole, what's going on there. And uh maybe it's just a touch long, but it's still pretty fun and like makes sense in context. I think once you get to the end of it, you're like, oh shit, you know.
Well, everybody seemed to be having fun shooting it, and you had some decent choreography in it. They were in sync for most of those scenes too.
Yeah.
So,
And that was really hard because the ground there was like there's like a drop off next to
hmm.
the fire pit that's like
Oh,
that hard. So they're like dancing on this completely uneven ground, trying not to trip and fall into a fire, right? Like, it was it was a little bit of a challenge. And we were so running out of time. We only got to do like um maybe three takes of
hmm,
that. Because and it was mostly, my fault on the scheduling end of it.
sure.
Um, I had I had thought that the fight scene would only take like a night and a half,
Ah,
and it ended up taking like 3 or 4 nights, I think.
oh, okay, sure.
Um, just because it didn't get dark until about 8:30,
Mm,
and then I didn't want everybody up until 2 in the morning, and then we
sure.
would have to get up early. So we would have to like stop around midnight and then, pick it up the next night. But I didn't think it would take quite so long. So we that shot was done, I think, on the second night that we were
Hmm.
there. And we were shooting it till like 12 at night. And I try not to like go over if I can on shoots. I try to keep things like on schedule, even if that means like leaving a shot out or whatever. Like there are
Sure.
shots where I was just like, no, we're not going to get it. We're just going to, go
Hmm.
on because I don't want everything to start falling behind. And it depends if it's crucial to the story or whatever. But
Right.
um, we had to be up in the morning at like 6 or 6:30 or whatever it was that day. So I was like, this is it. We're done now. And
Hmm.
so I wish I could have spent a little more time shooting it, but it is what it is.
Well, it's still part. They're partying, so it
Yeah,
works. And again,
yeah,
horror comedy, I think it works fine, especially in the context of everything that you
yeah.
have going on in there as well. Did you allow improv on a number of things like dialogue in that, even though you had a shorter schedule, or did you pretty stay to
I
the script?
I did. I did allow improv, and I actually scheduled some time in for improv in certain places. I mean, when you have like touring comedians whose
Right.
job is, you know what I mean? Like that would just be, in my opinion, that would be like just sad if I didn't let them riff
Riff,
from
yeah.
time to time, like when they're in the antique mall.
Mm,
I had allotted like a half an hour for them to just like walk around through there and just like riff on things that they found and like talk shit to each other, right? And like so some of that's pretty funny. And like when they're sitting at the table in the bar,
yeah,
they're in there just kind of riffing on each other a little bit. Like some of that was, I mean, they go from dialogue in the movie that is like driving the story and talking about
sure.
what's going on, and then once in a while they'll just kind of like towards the end, in the beginning of it, they're like just kind of talking shit to each other. It's just kind of funny.
Well, it made him feel though a lot like Fred's though. That really made the
Yeah,
gave it definitely a more realistic relationship with the feel. And yeah, that antique mall you had, the one item they found in particular was particularly creepy that they played with. I'm
oh
like,
yeah,
I'm
oh
like,
yeah, oh man.
I'm like, yep, that's what you
That's
find in a
pure
thrift
gold.
store.
That was pure gold right there. Oh man, there's a lot of good ones in the antique store. Got
Yeah,
me
that
cracking up.
that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun horror comedy. You've got a song in here. Did you really do? Okay, I gotta ask because one of the songs I'm like listening to it and all of a sudden like, wait, is that Snoop?
Yeah, it is.
You've got Snoop on one of your audio tracks. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I did just hear because I saw the credits at the end. How'd that happen?
Oh, well, like anything, I paid for verse.
Sure,
So yeah, to be on the track. And
nice.
same for KRS-One. He's
Mhm.
on that track
Yep.
where they're getting ready to leave. Yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a splurge, I guess, if you will. Like,
Yeah, one of those, let's see if we can do this. And oh hell yeah, we did this. So and I thought that was really cool. And it added a nice little flavor to the music. Cause I was just like, wait, I recognize that voice. That's
yeah.
Snoop.
Yeah, the soundtracks, for the movies that like I've always wanted to make songs or like
Sure,
scores and stuff for movies. And I've had some of my music placed in movies over the years here and there, a song here, a song there, whatever, maybe three times I've but like it's a different thing when you like get to go, hey, I get to make this song, and sometimes like before the movie's even made, so I can like do this thing or build this scene in the movie around this song, which I did with that song.
sure.
Um, the the scene is kind of built to like happen
Yeah,
while the song's unfolding, and then same with the other ones. Um, but for me, I generally tend to try and make most of the music because I find at my level and the amount of time I have and the resources that I have, I don't have a I don't have much more bandwidth to like deal with sync licensing
sure.
and like trying to get, because there obviously there's some cool songs out there that I think would have been fun in certain places to have in the movie, but
Yeah,
just
that licensing will kill you.
yeah, yeah.
Licensing those needle drops, depending on which one you want, can kill
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So over the years, like I've done songs with different artists and, now I own those songs or whatever, and I can use them in my films or
Sure.
whatever. So that's just kind of cool to have that. And I don't have to worry about sync licensing it because it's mine.
It's yours. So yeah, you look in the mirror, you go, "Hey, can I use your song?" Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, Austin, where is it showing next? Has it gotten accepted in a couple more festivals so far? Where can they possibly catch it next?
I honestly don't know. Most of the
Hmm.
festivals that I've submitted to so far they don't even
Close their submissions yet?
send
Yeah,
us they don't send out their notifications until like
sure.
later in the summer.
Hmm.
A lot of them are happening in either September, October, November, or it, most of them are September, October, and then there's a few like next year.
Sure.
So, I really haven't heard back from any. I've had a little bit of communication with one. I'm sort of crossing my fingers because it's a big one, but I mean, you never know, right? Like they get hundreds of
Yeah,
submissions. So,
yeah, depending on the
um,
festival, for sure.
yeah, yeah. But the one I've kind of been talking to a little bit, like it would be super awesome and super fun. And but other than that, I don't really know,
Sure.
like maybe
A-
someone will contact me. Maybe they won't. Um,
Anything else in the hopper? I mean, I know you're running this on the festival circuit now, but you got anything cooking
yes,
that you can plug?
so we're going to have the premiere for the movie
Mhm.
on Saturday, June 7th in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin at the Marcus Palace Cinema
Okay.
at 3 p.m. Um, June 7th, Saturday, June
June
7th.
7th. There you go.
The tickets are starting to we did sell it out
Mm,
once and I had to get a bigger theater.
sure.
Um, so now we've got another like 45 tickets to sell. I don't know if they have a bigger theater after this one or not. But I mean, like I don't know because
Right.
I
Yeah.
think we're at the 124 seat theater.
Sure.
Um, so hopefully we go ahead and sell the rest of those tickets. There's going to be some other movie producers, some bigger ones than me. Some newscasters, radio DJs.
Sure.
It should be an interesting time. We'll watch them have a little talk beforehand. I think Jason Rouse and Charlie Mack are probably going to each do a little 5 minute stand up before the show, talk a little shit, and then
Sure.
afterwards we'll hang out. We got that nice bar restaurant in there. We'll hang out in there and just drink some beer and laugh, I
And
guess.
laugh because it'll be officially out into the world, and then yeah.
Either that or recoil in horror from all the people who walked out.
Hey, but they already paid their tickets, so remember, even if they walk out, they already paid their tickets. So there
Yeah,
you go. That's that Hollywood
exactly.
approach, right? It's like it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
the movie was bad, you paid a ticket for it. Ha! So,
Yeah. Um, and
uh,
then we're gonna do a few more like I don't know if I'm gonna go as far as road show with it.
mhm,
I'm kind of feeling out the waters to see about a few different shows and like screenings in a couple different places. But the problem that I'm having is that I'm currently in the process of pre-production for the next two movies.
wow. What? Wow, you're so underachieving. Oh my God, no.
Oh God. Yeah, it was kind of a sort of an accident. I don't but it was written as one big story, so it's going to be a two-part movie, and
Sure,
it just makes sense to shoot it all at
right.
once. But it's still like a 145-page script, so
Whew. Yeah.
it's a lot, and I'm trying to get through like coordinating all the times to shoot and everything right now. And we got Robert Lasardo in this one,
Oh, fun.
and um, you know, several of the same actors that are,
Hmm.
in the last one are going to be in the new one. But just trying to get through that, and then I'm going to be shooting it all summer. So between premiere and a few screenings, like probably a couple screenings in
Sure.
Austin, Texas, because a couple of the comedians are in Austin, Texas, and maybe some film festivals. Like, so I'm just like trying to squeeze in, and I'm as I'm scheduling the shoots for the next movies, trying to make sure that I don't uh, schedule shooting on any of the possible dates for
Festival.
the festivals. Yeah, which is a real, because I know I'm probably submitted to 25 or something so far,
Sure.
and like maybe I'll get five, but I don't know. Like who knows?
The
But
the challenges of indie filmmaking, folks, right here, right now.
yeah,
That's what you're hearing. It is.
yeah, yeah. So
But that's
it's gonna be
awesome
a busy
that you
summer.
get. That's awesome. You got stuff in the hopper and you're doing pre-production on stuff. Look forward to seeing that when that comes to fruition. And talking to you again. This is always fun, Austin. I
Yeah.
appreciate this quite a bit. Is there a place where they can follow to see where possible announcements for your film is showing, what festivals and whatnot? There a website or your socials? Where go ahead and chill away there.
Uh, you can go to Facebook. There is a Sanguine Teeth page for it. I don't post there as often as I probably should. I post a lot on my socials, like
Sure.
at Austin Galante, whether it's, Threads or Instagram and Facebook. On There's also a Marshmallow Napalm page where I do post a little bit more, just because it's hard to have like a bunch of individual pages, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like
trust. Yeah.
if I kind of like post all the stuff on Marshmallow Napalm production page, then I can do it all there instead of having to maintain a bunch of pages. So that's
Makes sense.
that's kind of what I'm doing.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
find me on YouTube at Austin Galante. Actually, that's at real Austin Galante, and then the rest of them just Austin Galante. I mean, if you Google me, I'm sure you'll find me. But I post about it, so if you want to see what's happening.
And I'll have links for that down in the description of this video. Always a pleasure, Austin. And yeah, I hope it has a fun, successful festival run for it because it's definitely an interesting film that should be seen, especially if you want a slightly different take on your vampire film. This is definitely one of those.